Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Jim Albright and I am excited to be back with you all for what I think is going to be a very insightful and fun Beyond Compliance discussion. Now, today we're going to hear from an award-winning food safety expert on some of the ways that you can help awaken company-wide food safety culture that will not only help you ensure compliance, but will also help keep your production lines running and increase customer satisfaction. But before we dive in, for those of you who might be new to this series, Beyond Compliance is designed for those process manufacturers to glean ideas on how to better manage plant performance from quality to food safety goals and also to boosting production efficiencies. And our speakers provide actionable and proven best practices that you can start using today to give you better visibility to overall plant health, drive improvements, and help exceed your line, plant, and business goals. Now, the Beyond Compliance series is brought to you by Safety Chain. They're the developers of the holistic digital plant management platform that's trusted by thousands of process manufacturers to unite plant production and quality teams in order to maximize throughput and yield, ensure quality and compliance, and optimize labor and productivity. Do check them out at safetychain.com. Now, just some quick housekeeping items here. We have muted all attendee mics, but are absolutely going to leave room at the end for some Q&A. So please do submit your questions at any time during the presentation, and we'll make sure that we get to them. If we do happen to run out of time, though, we will be able to follow up with you individually afterwards. And yes, we are recording this session, so please do keep a lookout in your inboxes. We'll be sending the recording along with the slides later on today. Okay, I am absolutely thrilled to have with us Sebnem Karasu, founder and president of Karasu Consulting. Sebnem has over 25 years experience in the food industry and specializes in supply chain management, food safety management systems, GFSI standards, and FDA regulations. And she's an active member of many trade associations, some of you can see on your screen, and has been recognized as a top entrepreneur in her field. So Sebnem, thank you so much for joining us today. We're great to have you.
Thank you.
Now, if you want, you can share a little bit more about Karasu Consulting and then take us into today's topic.
Perfect. Well, first of all, I would like to start by thanking Safety Chain for organizing this webinar and giving me the opportunity to talk to you. I would also like to thank all of you for showing interest in this very important subject. My company, Karasu Consulting, is a consultancy company. We're helping companies who want to emphasize their food safety regulations, get certified to GFSI standards, help them with their FDA-related issues, or guidance and training, as well as some other food safety related, technology related solutions. So you can find more information about us at the end of the slide. I will share with you my details. So I see that our audience, I'm very impressed. Hundreds of people signed up today. That's wonderful. It's evenly divided between quality, operations, and general management. And that makes me very happy because what we are going to be discussing today is relevant to everybody in the company. And I'm looking forward to spending the next hour with you and sharing some ideas, tips, and suggestions in the food safety journey in your companies. Now, I said journey because food safety is an ongoing, continuously developing, and evolving process. It goes beyond documentation and compliance. And when we say food safety culture, we mean the behavior. So it has that different angle. Throughout my career, I worked as a quality manager, a general manager, managing director, owner of businesses, and finally as a consultant. My job took me to places where around the world, where I had the opportunity to observe firsthand how the suppliers were handling food safety practices along with their operations. And I observed the mindset of the employees, spanning from the top management to field workers. Being part of this big wave of establishing robust food safety systems with the recent regulations, guidance documents, and of the knowledge available out there, I wanted to name this webinar The Sleeping Beauty. And you're probably wondering why. Well, the Sleeping Beauty. We have the princess here, the Sleeping Beauty. And that's the food safety culture. Not too many people talked about the food safety culture until recent years. And I have a feeling it is still not really understood fully by the food industry. And when Safety Chain asked me for a webinar, I thought this subject would be very relevant. We all know that people often gravitate towards familiar routines and habits. Embracing change can be a daunting prospect by many. This fear of change results in ignorance, which is the curse that puts the beautiful princess to sleep. And she can only be awakened by the prince called knowledge.
I love this,
Now let's
Sebnem.
look at
This
the
is great.
parents. And let's look at the parents of the prince. One is science, graduated School of Engineering, a Master of Technology and Analytics. And the other parent is called experience. Experience had many food poisonings, allergic reactions, and recalls that caused so much money, headaches, and pain. But together, they have the Prince of Knowledge. Now, joke aside, why I use this analogy is that the food safety culture is the basis of the whole food safety management system, and it's been overlooked for so many years, making it the sleeping beauty. So, why did the experts come up with this concept? Now, food safety culture is more than just a check in the box in your food safety management system. People are still getting hurt and dying despite all the knowledge we have. So, why is that? I mean, I'm sure you all have experienced some type of food poisoning in your life. I sure have. And the thing that makes me not surprised, but more angry is that almost all of these cases could have been prevented. So, why is it still happening? It is the lack of the food safety culture in the company. If a company has been operating for many years and had absolutely no issues in their plant, if every environmental sample is negative, if all the sanitation controls are perfect, then to me, that's a big red flag. Such a perfect world simply does not exist. Now, this type of a perfect result-driven approach gives the senior management and the employees the wrong perception and overconfidence. Now, you don't need to improve anything if you have perfect results, right? Well, it's wrong. As I indicated in the beginning, food safety is an ongoing practice. We are dealing with food, a natural product that grows in the fields and the mountaintops and the valleys and comes from the seas and the oceans, most often collected, dehydrated in the Mother Nature. So how can we honestly say that we are able to predict every threat, every food safety risk to never affect our product? And how can we be absolutely sure when we are working with so many different people in the company, from different education levels to different cultures, that they will never make a mistake? Overconfidence is a big red flag for any company. And it also contradicts with the whole concept of HACCP, hazard analysis critical control points, which is based on risk analysis. We have to always be on the lookout for any kind of threat that could affect our product and or packaging, and make sure that the food safety culture is embedded into the brains and the hearts of every employee. The cost of not having food safety culture is very high, and sometimes it costs lives. It costs money. According to GMA, Grocery Manufacturers Association, and the FMI, Food Marketing Institute, the estimated average cost for a food recall is $10 million. And that's only the direct cost of the retrieval, disposal of the tainted product, and factoring in the indirect costs such as the lawsuits, sales losses, damaged reputation, the cost is even higher. Well, we're dealing with human nature who resists change. One of the things that I often hear during the implementation of food safety systems is the same line. This is how we do things around here. Change will not be easy. I said courage here. Believe in the change, have courage. Courage is necessary. I can give you an example about that. Years ago, I was working for a spice company and I was trying to implement the very basic uniform policy, the hairnets, lab coats, and all. I have to say, I had no resistance from the employees. They started wearing hairnets immediately after their training, but there was this contractor who would come to the plant like every now and then, and he looked like this massive giant guy uh, with a mean look on his face. Very unhappy person, but
Hmm.
he refused to wear the hairnet. And the workers asked them to do it, and they came to me and reported that they cannot make this guy wear the hairnet. So everyone was afraid of him. So I took it in my hands, went into the plant, and literally looked upwards to the guy. And I said, "You better wear this every time you walk into our plant. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to leave and you can never come back." I was so determined. And guess what? He said, "Yes, ma'am," and put the hairnet on. Determination is necessary. Do not be afraid. And I know we have many quality people listening today on the webinar. I want to let you know that what you do is very difficult. You have to be confrontational, sometimes disliked, but with proper planning, right attitude, and the senior management backing you up, you can overcome all these challenges. Now, what is food safety culture? Um, there are various definitions. Like GFSI and SQF both have the same definition. You can read it from the slide. Shared values, beliefs affecting the mindset towards food safety in across throughout the organization. BRC Global Standards has extended this a little bit more: attitudes, values, beliefs. But you know what I like the most? Former Deputy Director of FDA, Frank Yanas, who wrote books on food safety culture, he defines it as behavior. That's it. I love it. It is the behavior. Um, as many of you know, Global Food Safety Initiative is the benchmarking organization ensuring food safety standards across the supply chain. And under GFSI, recognized schemes. You can count SQF, BRC, IFS, FSSC, and so on. GFSI has listed these 5 pillars to implement the food safety culture. It starts with the senior management commitment. If you are certified to any of these standards, you would know that it's mandatory to have this in your food safety system. I have seen many wonderful quality management people leave their companies because they didn't have the backup from their bosses. Sad but true. Food safety culture starts from the top, and I guarantee you it will fail if you don't have the senior management support. I have worked with some companies where the owner sees the quality as a cost. Yes, quality does have a cost, absolutely, but so does the recall, so does the damaged brand reputation, and worse, the human lives. So if you have done everything to convince the senior management that food safety is the top priority, should be the top priority, but they still ignore you, that curse we discussed earlier will overcome the knowledge, and the company will end up paying for it, either going bankrupt or having a major recall sooner or later. You're better off finding a job elsewhere, honestly. So we will address other pillars later, but we talked about BRC and SQF having this now as a requisite. Again, BRC's new clause for the latest edition, which is the 9th edition of the food safety standard, is encouraging understanding and further development of food safety culture. Now, food safety culture is finally spelled out in both of these and the other GFSI recognized schemes. So you cannot pass the audit if you fail this clause. But how do we do it? Food safety culture is supposed to be by everyone in the supply chain. All the staff, from senior management to field workers, from drivers to maintenance, they need to be aware and be a part of the food safety culture. How is the thing? Now, while I was preparing these slides, I thought, what makes the food safety culture? Where does it start? And I thought this sentence is very relevant. Be aware and to care. Awareness and caring. You need the training, the knowledge, experience to be aware. This comes from your brain. But you also need to care. This comes from your heart. If you don't really care about what you do, why your job is so important in the supply chain, how your small decisions and minor actions may have such a great impact on the health of a consumer or your company's, your brand's reputation, if you don't care despite all the trainings you received, that means the food safety culture is really not there. So let's say you trained all the employees on the standard GMPs. You tested their knowledge, they passed the quiz, and you think all is perfect. Then one worker decides not to wash his hands after using the bathroom, just being lazy and no one is watching. He probably doesn't do this at home either. And then touches the food he's handling on the line, transfers the salmonella into the food. And no matter how extensive your sampling and testing program is, you cannot detect salmonella every single time. This contaminated food then goes out into the market. consumed by someone who will end up in a hospital, suffering with high fever, and may even result in death. Only because this line worker made that simple, stupid decision at that time. Why? Because he didn't care. So how can we make people care? Guess what? It starts at the top. For senior managers out there who are listening, first, find out the level of the food safety culture in your company. There are various tools available, surveys and communications and interviews. Make a clear action plan. Define how each employee can impact the food safety. Then provide training relevant for each role. Include all the employees, not only the production and quality departments. And we will go to the next slide in a second, and you will see how each role is affecting the food safety. Empower, that's a very big word. Empower the employees to do the right thing, even when their supervisor is neglectful. Provide open channels for reporting and feedback. Communicate with the staff at all times on the importance of food safety. Explain why and then how. See, that's one of the mistakes that people in general do. We start with explaining how. You have to wash your hands, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to. We explain how. This is very important. But why? Until you really explain why you are doing it, people are not really going to take it in. And then create a timeline with specific milestones and use the food safety culture toolkits out there to test the level and reward those who do a good job. I don't have to tell you how to reward the employees. It could be money, it could be recognition, it could be the employee of the month, but somehow they feel like they are doing a good job. So we talk about everyone to be involved in order to create the food safety culture in the company. The general perception is food safety is only the responsibility of quality and maybe operations. And this is probably the very first misperception that needs to be changed. Now, let's look at how each employee has an impact on the food safety. Again, these are only some of the examples. Field worker. What happens when he applies too many pesticides? Purchasing manager. Oh, this is my favorite. I cannot emphasize how important it is for purchasing people to get the food safety training. When they are making those buying decisions for the company, most often their priority is the cost. How much is this product? Oh, this is cheaper, I'll buy it from you.
Yeah.
Quality will come the second. But I'm so happy to observe that now, also thanks to FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, the approval of new suppliers is required for a company prior to purchasing. And so this involves the quality department. However, we're still not there yet. Do you remember the adulterated cumin some years ago? I was on the board of the American Spice Trade Association at the time, and this cumin issue became a really big one because the supplier used peanuts, which is an allergen, to adulterate the cumin. And when the US company found the peanuts, of course, it was huge. Naturally, everyone was after the supplier who made this horrible thing, a crime, really. But I believe alongside the supplier, the purchasing manager who made this decision is just as guilty because he kept on pushing the supplier for cheaper and cheaper and cheaper so that he could look good in front of his boss or whatever his reason was. When he bought it for half the price, he should have thought, hey, there's something wrong with this picture. So I strongly urge all of you to give the food safety training to purchasing managers. Tell them about food safety risks and threats, including food fraud and adulteration. Let's go back to our other employees, line worker. Simple things like, did he wash his hands? Did he bring pathogens with his footwear? Production manager, is he working collaboratively with the QC or is he hating it? Most production managers, they don't like quality people. But you know what? You need to work together. Warehouse manager, does he know allergens? Does he separating it properly? Does he know why he is doing this? Or does he think this is just some quality person telling him what to do and he hates it? Maintenance manager, oh my goodness, I'm sure you have a lot of good stories about maintenance people. Is he aware of the food safety practices during maintenance? How about after the maintenance? Compliance and QC managers, are you checking the labels? It blows my mind every time I look at the recalls and it's all about an allergen not declared on the label. Why? Why? I'm like, really? Is it that difficult? Is the documentation representing the actual production? I cannot tell you how many companies I visit. I look at their HACCP plan and their flow chart. It's always, there's something missing. So please, when you create the documentation, review it. It's a live document. And hygiene sanitation, of course, is a big piece of the puzzle. And the driver. Is the driver aware that he needs to keep his truck clean and not contaminate on the way to the consumer? But most importantly, the senior management, are they committed to the food safety culture and providing the resources? And is everyone aware of the consequences for not having a food safety culture? So effective communication in business, in personal life, it's crucial to understand the goals, building strong relationships, and ensuring clarity in instructions and expectations. It enhances productivity, minimizes misunderstandings, and contributes to a positive work environment. I know we get so busy with our daily tasks. However, please spend time talking with the employees, understand their level, their challenges, and give them the confidence that they can open up when they need to. I totally believe in the open door policy. It provides accessibility between employees and the management. And employees will have the opportunity to express concerns, share ideas, seek guidance, fostering a more inclusive and supportive work environment. Some of the questions you can see on the chart that you can ask the employees. Like one of them, I like this. What would you do if you notice something is wrong? You tell your supervisor, but he doesn't want to listen to you. Please ask this question. You will be amazed at some of the answers. And another one, do you have any recommendations to do your job better? This includes not only food safety, but productivity and other things. Again, you will be really surprised that you haven't thought about some of the things that the employee is going to tell you, because they are the best are actually doing the job and they will tell you about what could be improved, or what is going wrong in the company. And then the last question is, will you feed this product to your family? Touch their heart. Well, accountability. Yeah, employees have to take responsibility for these decisions. So when we talk about accountability, it's really important because it defines the roles, responsibilities for each position, clarity, and accountability promotes trust, transparency, and reliability. I personally experienced many lies going around the plants. When people lie, when they're afraid of the consequences. When things go wrong, they tell a lie. Maybe they're afraid to lose their jobs. You need to make sure that they are honest at all times, no matter what, and be open when they make a mistake. Mistakes are normal, we're all people, but telling lies to hide them can make things worse. I believe empowering employees to do the right thing, ensuring that they need to report any issues immediately, and rewarding those who do a good job will also be very useful. Now, if you are giving the training yourself, please level up with the audience. I have seen, I have observed some trainings given by some of the quality managers or assistants or supervisors, and my goodness, the language they use, it's impossible. I mean, people are just looking and not really understanding. When you use complicated statements, trainings may not be productive. Use pictures like this. This is for an allergen training. We talked about caring. Let them know why you are separating the allergens or cleaning up after an allergen production. Then you will remove these little silly decisions like ignoring a proper sanitation protocol after handling allergens, because the employees will care when their hearts are touched. And I always believe hiring professionals is always a good idea to give training, and pictures are better than words. What if this was your child? Ask them the question. Isn't it sad? And this is real. These are real pictures of real people. There are so many stories out there, so many available on the internet you can use. And using analogy helps. For example, explain HACCP, Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points, was established by NASA and it's controlled by da 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 da. Critical control points are very vital for a company. Okay. Instead, say something like this. It's like being paranoid. Yeah, it is. Oh my God, where's the risk coming from? Is it the threat or is it the risk? Oh, is the environmental? Oh, what if there's bioterrorism? Or what is the, you know what? It is like being paranoid. And then they understand the concept better instead of these fancy words. Let's say you're explaining sanitation. Do you clean your glass with the same cloth you wipe the floors with? Then go on to the color codes. Color coding is always a good method, like blue for, I don't know, drains, and green for food contact surfaces, and red for garbage, whatever you call the color codes with, and make sure the employees are not color blind. We have seen those too. But try to understand, tell them why and how. First why and then how. And beyond, we talked about beyond compliance. Be observant and self-critical. Go above and beyond compliance. Overconfidence is dangerous in your food safety journey. Use the knowledge and expertise available to you. Not everyone you will train has the relevant education, training, background, or experience. And you are dealing with people from multiple backgrounds, even different cultures. There are language barriers. One time I recall I was visiting a company in India, and we received products that were labeled turmeric. When we opened up, it was chilies. Like, how is this possible? It turned out that the people who was in charge of labeling could not read English. Again, very simple things that make up these mistakes, which cause so much problems in the future. So it's better to be safe. I visited a supplier who told me that they had the top quality grade in their certification. And when I walked in, where they placed the hand wash stations was quite a distance from the main entry into the plant. So you had to walk through a corridor where some farm animals were present. So did they check the box that they had hand washing? Yes. But does it serve the purpose of the sanitation controls? No. Similarly, I have observed multiple processing equipment with either no proper maintenance or validation verification. Having a metal detector in place doesn't necessarily guarantee not to have a metal in your product after the product passes the metal detection if you're not taking the precautions afterwards or beforehand. Or having a sterilization equipment in place doesn't guarantee that you will have 100% microbiologically safe product if you're not taking care of your high risk zones and your environmental controls. Have you looked at your food safety risks after you introduced a new ingredient into your formula? Um, did you review your food safety culture after a merge acquisition with another company with a totally different food safety culture? Have you followed the emerging risks or recalls in the industry that could potentially have an impact on your food safety? So, as you can see, there's a lot more than just compliance, but there are also a lot of resources available. I don't want to scare you. It's all achievable. Some are free, some are with a fee. Until now, we talked about ways to create the food safety culture. Free ones. Subscribe to food industry magazines. Mostly they're free. Follow relevant newsletters from organizations like IFT, IAFP, Food Safety News. You can also consider membership. It's a really small fee. There's an organization called Stop Foodborne Illness, and they have done a ton of work on food safety culture. And there's a free toolkit available on their website, which you can benefit from. Follow food safety experts on LinkedIn. Invite me. And attend webinars like this. Keep updated. Also, FDA, if you Google, FDA has a series of webinars on YouTube you can follow. I think there's like 8 webinars on the FDA on YouTube, which was given by FDA experts. And with a fee, hire consultants, training organizations, attend the food safety events, use technology solutions, and invite speakers from the industry to your company. Maybe this could be free too. And do not forget, developments in the last 5 years are now more than the overall past 50 years. So if you haven't been following, you're probably behind. Time to catch up. And a final note, building a culture of food safety forms the cornerstone for any establishment in the food industry. Providing safe food shall be the top priority, and it starts with a robust food safety culture. It involves ethical consideration as it directly impacts people's health and well-being. And we in the food industry all carry this responsibility, and it's our moral obligation to provide safe and high quality food to the consumers. Moral obligation. So I say, let's wake up the sleeping beauty. And I wish you, all of you, much success in your food safety journey. And I will be happy to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
Oh, that was wonderful, Sebnem. Amazing job kind of boiling this down for us. I think there's definitely quite a few of us here that probably got a few pages of notes, myself included. What I would like to start off with, because during the registration process, we do ask folks to share any questions ahead of time. And the majority of the questions that we did receive really just boiled up to one of your first slides under the 5 pillars, which is um, how do we institute proper food safety culture across our plants? And more so, how do we get buy-in from senior leaders to give us the support and even oversight or management of a broad factory-wide or plant-wide food safety culture? And I know you touched a lot about that in various slides, but on that 5 pillars slide, you do talk about this being part of the business structure or the value of the company. So do you have any guidance on how, if, as you said at the top of the presentation, there's a lot of food safety and quality folks who are with us today. How can they influence senior leaders, or at least ask the question, how is food safety part of our company's structure or value?
Thank you. Yes, it does start with senior management. And there are a lot of companies out there with very good senior managers who totally believe in the food safety culture or food safety as being their top priority, and some not so much. So, what I would propose is for the ones that, I mean, I have to be honest with you, most of the senior managers have a tendency to kind of delegate all of this on the quality managers. And I'm sure the quality managers would agree. Oh, it's your job to install this and to implement the food safety. But they need to be aware, first of all. They need to
Mhm.
empower the employees to be able to speak up. They need to empower the quality managers. And how can they empower? They can have a managers meeting or a overall company meeting where they say, hey, food safety is our top priority and you have to listen to the quality manager at all times, and be a role model, himself or herself. Be a role model. They have to. I have seen some of the owners of the companies like not even putting on like uniforms before they go into the plant, thinking they now that they own the plant, they don't have to obey the rules, but they should be the role models at first. So
Mhm.
if the owner or the senior manager is very price driven, what I would recommend is for the quality managers to or operations managers to ask for a meeting and prepare a presentation making sure that this price is mentioned. Like, do you know how much, use the example I just gave you. The cost of a recall is $10 million plus.
Mm,
And we have currently the risk of this much percentage. You can put that down too. Do you know the risk of da da da? You know, if they're really money driven and not really open to anything else, touch them with that money thing and tell them the cost of not having a food safety culture is more than the cost of implementing the food safety culture.
mhm,
Or also, I would recommend, like I said, inviting speakers to speak. Sometimes when people hear it from other people, other experts, it's more, I don't know why, it's more valuable. You can use consultants, you can use industry experts to come and talk to your senior management about food safety.
mhm.
Um, and also make them aware, kind of put fire underneath, you know, if they're not aware. Like, do you know, oh my God, do you know, have you heard of this and this happening to this company? The same thing can happen to us. So we need to be absolutely sure, and I will help you. And, you know, so
Mhm.
there are multiple ways depending on the personality of the senior manager, of course. But if they are totally ignoring you and not taking any acknowledgement or recognition of food safety, then just look for another job.
Oh, so the constant theme of explaining why and then how, it would make sense that you're doing this to everybody within the organization. And I thought it was interesting because you said, first start by understanding the level or the maturity of the food safety culture that you currently have today to uncover those gaps. Where are the fail points, if you will, and then build a training program around that. And that training program
Right.
obviously could be owned by the food safety quality part of the organization, but it's with the support of senior leaders adopted by all. And it uses a lot of the tips and tricks that you gave us today by asking certain questions like, well, how do you contribute to food safety in the company? And maybe even building some type of broad visual that everybody can see that almost gamifies your food safety culture. It says, well, hey, your purchasing department, how are you doing on food safety this week? Something to that effect. And with that
Yes.
broad
Right.
visibility, even the most senior level leaders are seeing this and they're part of that as well. And it just makes everybody accountable.
Very true. Very true. And you know, it's like another misperception when they talk about like a food safety training. It seems like it's always like one set of slides that everybody uses, and then you get refresher trainings, and then that's it. But it has to be addressed for each role, and each role has a different saying in the food safety, like the purchasing manager making the decision, buying decision. He needs to be more aware of food fraud and adulteration than the field worker, you
Right.
know? And the driver of the company needs to be more aware of what the allergens are when it's spilled, or why you have to separate different products in the truck and so forth. So every role is different, and the food safety training should be defined for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because it contextualizes. Because yeah, if I'm a driver of a truck, like, why do I care? Why, I'm just delivering product. Why do I care? But to make it
Yeah.
very contextualized to their day-to-day job, and then asking those questions like, would you feed this product to your family? Knowing that these certain risks could occur based on what you
Mhm.
do day in and day out. I think that would help a lot. And then obviously doing it on a more regular basis. Um, I wanted to ask this question. This is maybe a dopey question, but I get to ask it, so that's on me. Those that
Okay.
are going for GFSI certifications, whether it's SQF or BRC, as you said earlier, that the new SQF and BRC standard kind of says, oh, you have to prove that you have a food safety culture in place. Now, I don't know that it actually says to what maturity level, if it defines that. Can you provide a little guidance there?
Sure. I mean, FDA also talks about food safety culture, but it doesn't regulate food safety culture.
Right, right.
Um, BRC and SQF and other GFSI standards talk about food safety culture. You have to prove that you are doing something about it. So, like I said, there are multiple toolkits available, and how it can be measured, it's behavior science after all.
Hmm,
Can it be measured? Yes. Yes, it can be measured. It can be graded. And like I said, use the toolkits that are available out there. Do these surveys. You can do it before and after you give the training. Let's say you do it quarterly or monthly surveys, and then make sure that you prove, first of all, to your own organization, and then to the certification body and the standards you are being certified to, that you are actually addressing this problem and improving the food safety culture in the company.
right.
So
And
yes, it is being measured now. And there's a great saying: you can't control something, you cannot manage something unless you measure it.
mhm.
And I totally believe that even the behavior can be measured.
And I'm sorry, did I hear you say that with regards to SQF and BRC audits showing proof through those surveys that that would apply to their standard of yes, you have a food safety culture in place?
Of course, along with all the trainings, and you have to keep record of the trainings.
Hmm.
You have to make sure that every employee has signed off on, you know, uh, on-site trainings, and as well as general food safety trainings, allergen trainings, whatever it may be.
Right,
Um, the training is a big part of the food safety culture, but it's not the only thing about the food safety culture. And the auditor will be talking to the employees at the plant.
right,
They will be asking about certain things. So that's why it's important to have that communication inside the plant with the workers, whether you are a quality manager or a senior manager, supervisor. Talk to the employees all the time, and make sure that it's a open communication, like listen to their suggestions. Not everything may make sense, but there are some really good ideas that come out of those communications.
and that's a good point because it just kind of verifies that everybody's thinking on the same wavelength. And yeah, a survey kind of forces somebody to think that way, but if somebody walks up to you and asks those questions that you had showed us earlier, it kind of shows that there's more thought behind it. Um,
Absolutely.
Questions are coming in since we've been talking about surveys, but outside of surveys, are there other tools that you would say could contribute to proving that you have a level, regardless if it's, just budding or very mature, of food safety culture? Do you have any other recommendations?
Well, there are certain organizations, like I said, STOP, STOP. That's the latest one is that one, and then do read the books and publications by Frank Yanas, who has
Mm,
done a lot of work on this subject throughout his career. That's always good. And IFT has a lot of resources available. So you can also come up with your own questionnaires, which are relevant to your own organization, but use these toolkits that are out there. Like I said, it's there used to be a really good toolkit that BRC was using. I think that's still available out there. And like I said, most of these are free, but STOP is the most recent one that is available.
Right, and kind of going back to the idea of broad visibility around food safety culture, just building some type of dashboard or system in place, however which way you choose to do it, to make it more visible throughout the organization. And that just builds accountability, which is going back to your 5 pillars slide there. I know we're getting short on time, but I want to get through a few more of these. You had talked about governance and recognition, and I'd love to get some sense of maybe an example or a story that you could share around how can you effectively govern that this program is working the way it's designed, and that, you know, regardless if you're trying to keep your GFSI certification or not, right? How do we know that we're following a process that's only going to yield safer, more good quality food, and it's not going to result in a recall, something to that effect? What are some best practices, or at least some steps that folks can take to ensure that they're, I hate to use this word, but policing a good food safety culture?
Sure. Well, there are various things that I have seen in the industry that people use. I remember, like one thing I would do was I would bring a metal detectable pen into the company,
Mm,
and while I'm walking around, I would just drop it, intentionally drop it on the line to see if the metal detector would work. And it's so much better than asking that person who's filling out the forms. Oh, I do check the metal detector every 30 minutes, and here's my check mark, and here's my initials. Well, if that pen is not detected, then that means there's something wrong. Or
mm,
test their knowledge, like uh, again, intentionally put something in between the pallets, and go back the next day to see if it's still there. Something
right.
non-food related, not to pose any risk, of course, but
Hmm.
something, and then they say, yes, we do sanitize, we do clean. Okay, it's still there since
You
yesterday,
got to
so what
test that.
happened?
Yeah, I like
You
it.
know, you have to test it. Yeah, you have to test it because that unfortunately people need to be policed. I mean, I hate to say it, but you
Mm,
have to, no matter how much you give them training, you still have to police them. So, and they need to know that, now that we have done the training and now that we think everyone is wonderful and they care and they do things, and that is basically the um, main concept is of the training is to make them do things even when nobody is watching.
sure.
But what do they do also to know that they are being watched and they are also being recognized? That's the main thing.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Awards,
Hmm.
just award, give free lunch, or even just a clap. Hey, you're the employee of the month, and put his picture or her picture on the
Hmm.
board for a week or for a month. These are nice things that you do to people.
Right.
Give the priority parking in front of the factory, if that's relevant. There are so many different ways of recognition.
And again, I know we're running low on time, but what I really liked was your statement on empowerment and making sure that everybody in the organization, doesn't matter who you are, what level of in the hierarchy of the org you are at, everybody has the ability to make change, and you have an open channel for reporting and collecting feedback. And that also should be kind of given some visibility to make sure that everybody is aware that, hey, yeah, I can actually do something about this, or at least I can
Yes.
ask a question and not feel like I'm saying something that others might think ridiculous. So it's again, it just ties
Right.
back to that visibility, which builds accountability. And yeah, I love it. I love the recognition thing. I think that's hugely effective. And obviously, if there's any of you out there that do this, we'd love to collect those stories, because again, we know that this is one of those things that are, it's great in concept but hard to get off the ground. So any ideas are always welcome to share on maybe a future beyond compliance. So actually, it looks like we're right on time here. So I'm going to show our last slide, which just is a kind of recognition. Shebnem, you did an excellent job. We loved having you on. If you have any questions, please do reach out to Shebnem. She's at carusoconsulting.com, or you can get her previous email address. I'll show that here. Shebnem on carusoconsulting.com. You can ask us questions, and we'll divert it over to Shebnem. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. Here at Safety Chain, we
Thank
also
you.
have a bunch of resources you can glean out of our resource library. We have a bunch of downloads, other webinars that we've hosted. It's a broad library, so hopefully you can find some value in that. We thank you all for hanging out with us a little bit later today. We definitely would love to see you back on Beyond Compliance. Shebnem, again, thank you so much for this. We certainly want to have you back on, and we hope everybody has a good rest of your week.
Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.